This morning, without explanation, I took a quarter and asked my husband to predict coin flip outcomes. He said heads every time and got 3 in a row on the first 3.
It's a miracle!
Thus reproducing your sister's miracle results in a best-case scenario for your story. And again, anyone can try this on their own. Just start tossing a coin. Do 100 tosses and see how many times you get 3 accurate in a row.
Well, you don't even have to do the tosses. The math is really simple. You have a 1 in 8 shot of getting 3 in a row on a coin toss. 3 in a row is, if 1 in 8 is a miracle.
But who would say that what my husband did is miraculous?
Nobody.
I know, and I'm just like, this is what you're presenting me with, and you're asking me how can science possibly explain this? And it's like, this is so mundane, I don't even know why it's impressing you.
Yeah, it's not even really a 1 in 8 because there's not an explicit prediction of the sex of the kids. But even if it were, even if we granted that that was the case, you've taken a 1 in 8 shot, and then you've glommed extra irrelevant bits onto the story.
Loads of them.
Oh, she was once dead.
A lady in white told her to guess heads.
White told yes.
Told her to guess heads.
Yeah.
And then she had died before she saw this woman who told her that the coin would be on heads. And it's just, you just start building and building this giant superfluous mass of data when really all you're saying is she guessed a 50-50 outcome and got it right.
Yeah, this is exactly how people lose fortunes. This lucky rabbit's foot, the gambler's fallacy, I'm due for a win, I got these 2 right, there's something, I'm in my groove, and now I'm going to get the 3rd one right. I think the miracle here is that the people who are gullible enough to believe this in a religious context haven't lost everything they own to somebody who's just...
To a preacher?
To a preacher. No. Somebody who's slightly less ethical.
There are some people that were on, that commented on, when I posted like a few items on Facebook about this, and there's more than one person actually said that they do something like the following. One guy said, whenever somebody tells me online that they've lost something they can't find, like their TV remote or their keys, I say, check behind the couch or check in the couch cushions. And he's like, most of the time they check and it's not there, but every now and then someone checks and they find it. Yeah. And he's like, you should see how they freak out. And they're just like, oh my God, you're psychic, you're psychic. He goes, he's like, 100 times I could do this and it's wrong. He's like, but the one person that hits it, they think it's just so impressive. He's like, you can't believe how impressed they are. And I told him this guy would be like your #1 disciple.
I probably have talked about this before, and I'm not actually exposing anything secret, but I'll tip you to something that happens quite often. Well, I won't say how often. I know that there are a number of professional magicians who make use of this, and that is the principle of getting lucky. I've used it before myself. For example, you're going to make a prediction. I might pull a card out of a deck of cards and place it down on the table face down as a prediction, and then ask you to name a card. Now, almost every time, you're not going to name the card that's on the table, at which point, since you have no idea what I was doing with that card, I'm going to make use of that card in some way to reveal what you picked and go on with the trick that I had planned. But on those rare occasions where you actually do say the name of the card that's on the table...
Blow somebody's mind.
That is an impossible trick.
Right.
It's impossible to backwards analyze and figure out, how could he have done this? There's no work there. There's nothing. And it's because it was just happenstance. Now, there are ways, for example, to improve the odds that they're going to say the card that you lay out there. And I'll leave that for people who are in the trade to investigate, or I don't want to blow anybody's secrets too much. But the fact of the matter is, for example, the most commonly named card when you ask somebody just to name a card is the Ace of Spades. Well, if you put the Ace of Spades down every time, you're going to get it right more often than you would, for example, a 7 of clubs or whatever. Probably. I mean, it's a psychological element. But the fact of the matter is, most people aren't going to find that as amazing. There's something, we've attributed some significance to the Ace of Spades, the death card or the highest of the spades. We give, that it's not surprising that somebody might name it, or that you might have predicted somebody might name it. I think that's at least common enough knowledge where it's not as good of a prediction. It's like it's almost like predicting whether somebody's going to pick the donut or the carrot, when offered. If you know something about their character, if you know they're diabetic, you know that they probably really want the donut, but they'll go for the carrot. type thing. So there's lots of ways to make use of that. And it's all about having, in the case of magicians, it's about having information that your audience doesn't have access to. And in the case of this miracle story, it's about nobody having access to that information. And so you pretend, you make up a grand explanation for how someone might have come to this information.
It's just sad. I mean,
it's a white woman in a white room.
You've shown me like a couple of very tiny card tricks, and it's really funny because the few people I've shown them to, not the trick, but like done the trick on, I've had at least 2 people I can think of tell me that they were so freaked out they wouldn't do it again. Like it freaked them out, and it's a trick. I mean, it's a card trick. It's set up like a card trick. There's nothing spooky about it. I mean, there's like the little story about how you're being psychic, but it's clearly like a joke and a trick. And yet they don't know what the trick is, and so they're so tripped out by the outcome, being so tricky.
Yeah.
That it really psychologically just weirded out a couple people that won't do it again, won't even try it again.